I Craig, Malita, and this is my channel, The Midnight Librarian. Today I will be going over my winter and final 2021 book haul. So typically with my book hauls, I try to keep my books separate, but if I feel the need or want to read them, I'll incorporate them into my TBR and tend to forget which ones are new and haven't hauled yet. So I believe I have everything here. So this is a mixture of books that I've gotten since October, November, as well as December and Christmas gifts. So let's get to it because there's quite a bit. I apologize if it's slightly shaky. I'm realizing that my washer, I share a wall with my washer dryer, and I'm noticing some shaking. So apologize if that transfers via the camera, as well as noise. So I'm worried that if I wait for my laundry to be done, it's gonna be dark, but this is also laundry that needs to be done, so I apologize. Okay, so the first couple books I want to haul are actually a couple of horror books that I was excited to get after watching Jordaline from Jordaline Reads recommend books. And the first one is Hex by Thomas Old Huvelt. Just the cover of this freaks me out. It looks so cool and so creepy. From what I understand, there's this woman that has her eyes and mouth sewn shut and just appears in people's houses like while they're sleeping, except it's only within this certain town. So it's like they're trying to contain her to this town, so once you're living there you cannot leave. So that's all I know, that's all I really want to know. And it's blurred by Stephen King. Not that if you care, I found that I don't tend to like Stephen King's writing, so I don't know. But yeah, I'm excited about this, but very nervous. I may wait on this. We'll see how soon I get to it because it's already freaking me out. Next is one that has, I don't remember if Jordaline Reads talked about it, but I know that a lot of booktubers have been reading it this year and have ultimately been disappointed. But that is Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Kah. This one I'm still interested in, mostly because that cover is like, oh my god. But also it's a relatively short read, so I'm very interested in it. What I understand, this follows a group of people who end up going to this old mansion in Japan where the husband, I believe, buried his bride to be. So yeah, resting on the bones of the bride, and its walls packed with remains of the girls sacrificed to keep her company. That's all I know, that's all I want to know. So the next couple are books that I found on bookshop.org, just kind of browsing around. The first is Acorns and Abalone. This is actually by Sylvia Ross, who I believe is a California woman, but I haven't figured out like where she's from exactly in California. But I believe this is like a collection of just short stories that she created or made. Ultimately, I'm just curious about it, but also this is for a TBR I would like to do in 2022. So I also really enjoy the cover, but what I particularly am interested in is not only is it the abalone that interests me, but usually when I see stuff about acorns, it's usually a different type of acorn than what I'm used to. But on here I can say that it's like tan oaks, which are what we have here. And then we also have The House of Rust by, I apologize now, Khadija Abdallah Bahaber. I apologize so much. But this is when Aisha's fisherman father goes missing. She takes to the sea on a skeleton boat to rescue him, guided by a talking scholar's cat who sparks her interest in the mysterious House of Rust. She encounters 3 monsters hidden beneath the waves. All Aisha wants is for things to turn to normal. But a showdown with the father of all sharks looms, and at home things only grow stranger. A fabulous coming-of-age tale set amidst the diasporic Hadrami culture in Mombasa, Kenya. The House of Rust is a standout debut by a marvelous new voice. I thought it was an interesting cover. It sounded like an interesting premise, so Then we have Artificial Condition by Martha Wells. This is the second book in the Murderbot series. And basically for the Murderbot series, in the first book we are following almost cyborg type person, I believe. They are, I think, or a robot that was built basically as like a mercenary or even like a protector of sorts that gets rented out to people who want to explore planets. So we're following Murderbot, who's named themselves because they were able to hack their own system and therefore technically not have to listen to their programming, but don't want anyone to know because they could be shut down. Because people believe that if they were able to hack their own programming, that they'd go on like a murderous rampage, but Murderbot just ultimately wants to watch their soap operas, TV shows, and be left alone. They get really uncomfortable with human interaction, but ultimately have to do their job in order to keep up the appearance that they still obey their programming. So it's really, the first one I really enjoyed, so I'm interested to get to the second one. This next one I've heard talked about a little bit on BookTube, but haven't heard too much about it. But I have heard good things nonetheless, and that is Lobizona, Undocumented, Unprotected, Unafraid by Romina Garber. This one is following Manuela Azul has been crammed into an existence that feels too small for her. As an undocumented immigrant who's on the run from her father's Argentine crime family, Manu is confined to a small apartment in a small life in Miami, Florida, until her protective bubble is popped. Her surrogate grandmother is attacked, lifelong lies are exposed, and her mother is arrested by ICE. Without a home, without answers, and finally without shackles, Manu investigates the only clue she has about her past, which leads to a secret world buried within our own. So, yeah, that's all I want to know. Again, this cover, gorgeous. These next ones I've already read, and you can see more in my December wrap-up once that comes out. If it's already out, then I'll link it, but I don't, as of right now, I haven't filmed it, so we'll see how that is by the time I've uploaded this video. First is Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall. Notes from the Women That a Movement Forgot. This goes over today's feminist movements and how it's glaringly blind to women of color, Black women, women of as well as LGBTQ community. Just so many blind spots that the current feminism movement has ignored consistently. And basically this is Mickey Kendall kind of saying these different things and these different people are need to be protected. Different problematic things within our society need to be broken down and reconstructed because this is a feminist issue. So for instance, housing as well as food scarcity, just a bunch of different things. You'll hear more of my thoughts on it in my December wrap up, but ultimately I really did enjoy this. I listened to it and then got the physical copy. The next two I have also already read, and that is the second and third books in the Miss Files trilogy by Sylvan Nouvelle. I have read both of these, as well as the first one, and basically we are following a bunch of recordings and documents. In the first book we are following Rose Franklin as she is being interviewed by an unknown interviewer, and basically we're following the unknown interviewer as he's going around. But basically Rose Franklin, when she was a kid, ended up falling into a hole, landing into a gigantic hand. Several years later she's a physicist and ends up being the lead scientist in creating a group and research team to go find and build and figure out how this machine works. The whole series is basically how humanity ends up reacting to it as a machine, as technology, as something that is not of this world, and in turn their response to it. So again, something I actually have a vlog dedicated to this series if you want to go check that out. This next one I kept seeing out and about, with booktubers set in the UK, but haven't heard much of anything in terms of booktubers set in the US. But I was really kind of really fairly interested in it, and that plus I like the cover, and that is How to Kill Your Family by Bella Mackie. Funny, sharp, dark, twisted. This is blurred by Jojo Moyes, but I haven't read anything from, so I don't know. They say you can't choose your family, but you can kill them. I have killed several people, some brutally, others calmly, and yet I currently languish in jail for a murder I did not commit. When I think about what I actually did, I feel somewhat sad that nobody will ever know about the complex operation that I undertook. Getting away with it is highly preferable, of course, but perhaps when I'm long gone, someone will open an old safe and find this confection. The public would reel. After all, almost nobody else in the world can possibly understand how someone by the tender age of 28 can have killed 6 members of her family, and then happily carried on with the rest of her life, never regretting a thing. I don't think I've heard people put this on their TBR, but I haven't heard too many reviews about it, so these next two are more bookshop.org picks that I just kind of found. The first is Heart, a History by Sandeep Jahar, author of Doctored and Intern. For centuries, the human heart seemed beyond our understanding, an inscrutable, shuddering mass that was the spark of life and somehow the seat of the soul. In Heart, a History, cardiologist and best-selling author Sandeep Jahar tells the colorful and little-known story of the doctors who risked their careers and the patients who risked their lives to know and heal this most vital organ, deftly weaving together his own experience with his defining discoveries of the past. He braids tales of breakthrough, hubris, and sorrow, as well as accounts of his own family's history of heart ailments to create a lucid chronicle of our life's most intimate chamber, the only organ that can move itself. This is also for a TBR that I hope to get to in 2022. The next one is Garlic and the Vampire by Bree Paulson. I believe this is it's a graphic novel, and that I had stumbled up. It smells interesting. It almost smells like crayons, like wax, like Crayola crayons. Not that I know that there's any, I don't know if there's any other company that produces crayons, but Crayola, that's what it smells like. Anyway, I saw this on bookshop.org and got it, and then shortly after saw that Laura from, I can't remember the channel name, I think it's Laura's Bookish Life, had read this, and I thought it was really cute, so was really happy about the purchase. So hopefully I hope to get to all of these soon. But my next one is actually my first purchase from Pango. This is not sponsored, but I have started an account on there and I'm curious about it, but this is my first purchase from them, and which I have talked about in my December TBR, but that is When No One Is Watching by Alicia Cole. I have yet to read this, but this is I believe, a mystery thriller or thriller mystery. We are following Sydney Green, who is Brooklyn born and raised, but her beloved neighborhood seems to change every time she blinks. Condos are sprouting up like weeds, for sale signs are popping up overnight, and the neighbors she's known all her life are disappearing. That's all I really want to know going in, honestly. I've heard good things about it, particularly from, I believe, Jessie from Bowties and Books. I also really enjoy this cover. I had this on my December TBR. I don't think as I'm filming this, it's December 27th. Who knows when I'm going to post this, but hopefully here soon. But I'm not going to be able to get it to December, but it is rolling over to my January TBR for the Buzzwordathon word pick for January, which is the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why, and I don't know of how it's being included in that or not, but obviously when no one was home. So. Next, I have a new release from Louisa Erdrich, and that is The Sense. I like this cover a lot. The fact that there's like different little textural things. I wish they were like actually textured, but excited. I've been excited for this for a while. My only thing with my gripe with it is the deckled edges. I hate deckled edges. The Sentence. We are in a small bookstore. It's a small independent bookstore in Minneapolis that is haunted from November 2019 to November 2020 by the store's most annoying customer. Flora dies on All Souls Day, but she simply won't leave the store. Tuki, who has landed the job selling after years of being incarcerated, is trying to solve the mystery of why Flora is haunting the bookshop, as well as trying to understand all that occurs in Minneapolis during a year of grief, astonishment, isolation, and furious reckoning. So I'm fairly curious about this because it sounds like it's in the midst of all the events that happened 2019 to obviously in 2020 in Minneapolis, which is huge. Heard that there's been some like critiques about how it's like shouldn't have talked about it, but like I'm very curious. So next we have, I don't know if I've already hauled this or not, so I apologize if I did, but this is The Illness Lesson by Claire Beams. I know that this was on my December TBR as well. I haven't been able to get to it, but it's another one that I'm really interested in. This one I like the texture of because it's like embroidered, and it kind of has that texture to it when you feel it, which I really enjoy, and it's a beautiful cover. But basically, The Illness Lesson, we are following a father-daughter duo who is basically taking charge of a all-girls school, but the daughter has some reservations because of how she was brought up by her father. And so when their charges start getting ill, the daughter wants the father to like report it, and so that the girls can get the help they need. However, her father ignores her and goes to a very well-known doctor, and he's well-known because of some of the sinister type stuff he's done. So the daughter feels that it's her duty to be able to protect her charges from her father and this doctor, particularly when she is finding that her own body is failing her. These next two I got while I was down in Southern California, which I have a vlog about that kind of had a mini book haul of them, so I'll go over them quickly. The first is The Forever Sea by Joshua Phillip Johnson. I'm currently reading the book, so that's why it's not physically here, but here's the cover, which is absolutely gorgeous. In this fantasy land where there's a never-ending, miles-high, expansive prairie grasses, which they call the Forever Sea, and we are following Kindred Greyreach, who is a hearthfire keeper. So these ships are able to sail on this prairie that they don't know the depths to, and there's things living in it. We are following Kindred as she's trying to figure out what happened to her grandmother, because her grandmother has said that she just walked out into the prairie and never returned. So she's trying to find her grandmother and figure out herself. So far I'm enjoying it. It's just kind of a slow read, not due to any fault of the book. It's just I'm having a hard time like finding time to actually read it. And then my other book that I got down in Southern California was The Prince to the Skies by Antonio Etrube. This is based on the true story of Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, who is the author of The Little Prince. So I believe this is a historical fiction set in the 1920s. Long before he wrote The Little Prince, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry was an accomplished pilot along with Jean Mermoz and Henry Guillaume. He was chosen to pioneer new mail routes across the globe. No distance was too far and no mountain too high. Each letter had to reach its destination. The three friends soared through the air while a world torn apart by wars and political factions awaited them back on solid ground. This is a gripping narrative of death-defying plane crashes, heart-rending love affairs, and unexpected fame, as well as an homage to Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, an unforgettable writer who touched the lives of millions of readers. I have read The Little Prince and wasn't that big of a fan because it kind of went over my head. I do hope to reread it at some point. I do like the Netflix adaptation though, that I really enjoyed with Rachel McAdams and Jeff Bridges. I forget who plays the little girl. And this cover is absolutely gorgeous. I love it. This next one I have also read, but I do hope to do a reread of it soon, and that is A Mind Spread on the Ground by Alicia Elliott. You can check out my November wrap-up as I talk more about it there, but basically this is a collection of essays by Alicia Elliott as she talks about the injustices and growing up in, I believe she grew up in Canada, but she moved to the US at some point. So she talks about both the injustices that the United States and Canadian government has done to Indigenous peoples, and basically her struggles growing up as an Indigenous person, but also a mixed Indigenous person, so she's Indigenous and white, and having that struggle of being white passing but also growing up Indigenous, and what that means for her. It was really touching and really just impactful. There was I listened to this at first, but I was also traveling while I was listening to it, so I do want to get to it physically and reread it, because I do feel like I want to grasp everything before doing a full review of it. This is also another gorgeous cover. Another couple of bookshop.org finds. The first is Trickster, Native American Tales, a graphic collection, the 10th anniversary edition, published by Chicago Review Press. It looks like it's a kind of an anthology of a bunch of people. We have Joseph Bruchac, Matthew Fletcher, and Dale Ray DeForest, Becky Garris, and Andrew Cohen. Matt Dembicki is the editor of this. I'm liking the smell of it. But yeah, it seems to be a collection of graphic stories. All of these seem to be in graphic novel form, with various contributors. So I'm pretty excited to get to this. I love the cover of it. So, like I said, I just kind of stumbled across it and was really happy to. And the same with this next one, and that is The Cat Who Saved Books by Sasuke Natsukawa. And I believe this is about a cat who ends up saving a bookstore. Awkward high school student Rentaro Natsuki is about to close the second-hand bookshop he inherited from his beloved grandfather. For this bookworm by blood, shutting down Natsuki's books is no easy task. It's been his sanctuary and hideout from the demands of school and the world at large. However, before the bookshop's doors are shut for good, a talking cat appears with an unusual request. The feline requests the teenager's help in saving books from abusive, negligent owners, and it won't take no for an answer. That's all I know. That's all I want to know. There is a couple more paragraphs, but yeah, that's all I want to know about it. These next couple of books are actually from Book of the Month. This is not sponsored. I ended up, I believe, skipping November's because I didn't enjoy, nothing was there that I thought I would enjoy. And then for December, I ended up picking A Flicker in the Dark for my pick, for my book pick of the month by Stacey Willingham. This is a mystery thriller, I believe, that we're following Chloe Davis, who when she was 12, there was 6 teenage girls that ended up going missing in her small town of Louisiana, and by the end of summer, her father confessed to the crimes and was put away for life, leaving Chloe and the rest of the family to grapple with the truth and try to move forward while dealing with the aftermath. 20 years later, Chloe is a psychologist in Baton Rouge and is getting ready for her wedding, and thinks she finally has a grasp on the happiness she's been working so hard to achieve. But then teenage girls start going missing. Chloe believes that she's being paranoid, seeing parallels from her past that aren't actually there, or is this the second time in her life that Chloe is going to unmask the killer? So yeah, this is an early release. I believe the actual release for this book is January 11th of 2022. My bonus book is A History of Wild Places by Shay Earnshaw. I read one other book by Shay Earnshaw before. I can't remember it, but it was set up in Oregon. I didn't like it. It was just kind of meh. And I found that I was like nitpicky throughout the whole thing. But this one is following Travis Wren, who's an unusual talent for locating missing people, hired by families. As a last resort, he requires only a single object to find the person who has vanished. And when he takes on the case of Maggie St. James, a well-known author of dark, macabre children's books, he's led to a place many believe to be only a legend, known as Pastoral. And this reclusive community was founded by like-minded people searching for a simpler way of life. But soon after Travis stumbles upon it, he disappears just like Maggie St. James. Years later, Theo, a lifelong member of Pastoral, discovers Travis's abandoned truck beyond the border of the community. No one is allowed in or out, not without risking bringing a disease, the rot, into Pastoral. So this sounds really interesting. I actually really do enjoy the cover of it, so I'm very curious. One that I ended up getting because I started getting FOMO and I really just want to know what the hype is about is Love Hypothesis by Allie Hazelwood. If you don't know what this is about, this is following a young woman, Olive Smith, who's in her third year as a PhD student, who doesn't believe in lasting romantic relationships, but her best friend does. And so when her best friend wants to date Olive's ex, Olive gives her her blessings, but her best friend won't do it unless she knows for sure that Olive is okay with it by dating someone else. And so I believe Olive ends up to prove that she is actually with someone, ends up kissing the first man she sees, and that man is Adam Carlson, a young hotshot professor and well-known ass, who ends up agreeing to fake date her. So, and from what I hear, this is an Kylo Ren Rey fan fiction type deal. So I don't know. I'm cover is I enjoy the cover. Romance tends to make me wary, but I'm very curious about this one because I've seen others who have also proclaimed that romance is not their thing enjoy this one. So these next two are also finds from bookshelf.org. I'm running out of room. And this first one is The Ballerinas by Rachel Kapelk Dale. The blurb is ballerinas are point shoes. You have to break them down before they're of any use. 13 years ago, Delphine Leger abandoned her prestigious soloist spot at the Paris Opera Ballet for a new life in St. Petersburg, taking her a secret that could upend the lives of her best friends, fellow dancers Lindsay and Margot. Now 36 years old, Delphine has returned to her former home at the legendary Palais Garnier Opera House to choreograph the ballet that will kickstart the next phase of her career, and she hopes to finally make things right with her former friends, but Delphine quickly discovers that things have changed while she's been away, and some secrets can't stay buried forever. I like the light pink of the cover. I've always been curious about ballet as well. It was one of those things that I was curious about when I was little and was told that I wouldn't have the body to do it. So it's dance and ballet has always been one of those unachievable things that I've always been into, but what are you gonna do? And the second book that I found was Death by Dumplings by Vivian Xian. Let's see. Welcome to Holy Noodle House, where the Chinese food is to die for. The last place Lana Lee thought she would ever end up is back at her family's restaurant, but after a brutal breakup and a dramatic workplace walkout, she figures that a return to the Cleveland area to help wait tables is her best option for putting her life back together, even if that means having to put up with her mother, who is dead set on finding her a husband. Lana's love life soon becomes yesterday's news once the restaurant's property manager, Mr. Fang, turns up dead after a discovery of shrimp dumplings from Ho Li. But how could this have happened when everyone on staff knew Mr. Fang's severe, life-threatening shellfish allergy? Now with the whole restaurant under suspicion for murder and local media in a feeding frenzy, to say nothing of this gorgeous police detective who keeps turning up for takeout, it's up to Lana to find out who's behind Fang's killer order before her number is up. And I believe this is a little series because this is a mass market paperback, but I actually don't mind it. I don't tend to get them. It smells like a mass market paperback. But I actually remember seeing this before Arsenic and Adobo and was fairly curious about it. So I'm hoping not to compare the two authors. Also, I just really enjoy this cover a bit more. So I just want to see. I just want one of those comfy mysteries that seem a little goofy. So These next 3 books I actually got for myself after going to a comic book store for when going out gift shopping. But it seemed really interesting, so I got it. But these are some graphic novels. It's the first 3 volumes of Low. Is that upside down? No. By Low. Volume 1, The Delirium of Hope. Volume 2, Before the Dawn Burns Us. And Volume 3, Shore of the Dying Light by... There's like 3 of them. Rick Remender, who's the writer. Greg Tocchini, who's the artist. And Sebastian Gerner, who is the editor. So from what I understand, this is a post-apocalyptic type graphic series where the radiation of the sun has basically made the surface of Earth uninhabitable, so everyone lives in the depths of the ocean. But I think, from what I understand, probes scour the universe and for habitable worlds. After tens of thousands of years, a single probe returns crashing on Earth's surface, a now alien place no human has seen for millennia. And Stell Can, her husband Joel, the last helmsman of the once great city Salas, must rise from the depths of mankind's despair and journey to the surface in search of salvation. Those sound really interesting, so I got those 3. Okay, we're on my final stretch, I swear. So these next ones are actually Christmas gifts that I got this year. The first being Murder Maps USA. This I got, my partner Brad gave to me, so thank you so much to him. I actually have, I was aware there was a second one. Oh god, I love the smell of this one. It smells different. Basically, it's what it says. It's Murder Maps of the USA, Crime Scenes Revisited, Bloodstains and Ballistics from 1865 to 1939 by Adam Seltzer. I have the other one, actually, and it's like Murder Maps of the world, and they revisit some murder crime scenes, but I'm interested to see which ones they go to in the US. But yeah. It's basically nonfiction, and it has a bunch of different multimedia stuff in here. Old files, old photographs, I don't know, maps. I'm fairly curious about it. So, and then these next 3 I got from my dad and his wife, so thank you so much to them. The first is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin Doughty. I've read Caitlin Doughty's other 2 works, Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs, and I can't remember the other one, but basically she travels the world in search of other what other places do for their dead. This one, so Caitlin Doughty actually I know has a YouTube channel and where she answers questions about being a mortician, because she is a mortician down in Los Angeles. So most people want to avoid thinking about death, but Caitlin Doughty, a 20-something with a degree in medieval history and a flair for the macabre, took a job at a crematory, turning morbid curiosity into her life's work, thrown into a profession of gallows humor and vivid characters, both living and very dead. Caitlin learned to navigate the secretive culture of those who look after the deceased. Smoke Gets in Your Eyes tells an unusual coming-of-age story full of bizarre encounters and unforgettable scenes. Caring for bodies of every shape, color, and affliction, Caitlin soon becomes an intrepid explorer in the world of the dead. She describes how she swept ashes from the machines and sometimes onto her clothes, and reveals the strange history of cremation and undertaking, marveling at bizarre and wonderful funeral practices from different cultures. Okay, so I believe this was her first book, and in her second book she gets more into depth about the different funeral practices of different cultures. This one sounds like it's more about Caitlin's experience getting into becoming a mortician. So yeah, I'm very curious about that. I really like that little foil there. Okay, so this next one is one I'm excited for. I still need to read the first one though. So this is the sequel, and that is Trickster Drift by Eden Robinson. And basically this is the sequel to Son of a Trickster. This is the second one, right? Yeah. So yes, this is the second sequel to Son of a Trickster. Trickster Drift, and then the third one is Return of the Trickster that was published this year. So this one was published back in 2018. And I requested the hardcover because that's what I got Son of a Trickster as. But yeah, I have yet to read Son of a Trickster, so basically I believe we are following teenager Jared, who basically has to grow up more than he has to because he ends up taking care of most of the adults in his life as they party and do drugs. And to make more money, he sells drugs. And he also does a bit on the side. So when crows start talking to him when he's not high, he starts to get very suspicious of what's going on. His grandma has always called him like the cursed child, and said that his father wasn't who like his mother always claimed it was. So strange things happen. I know was a TV series adaptation of this that looked really creepy. I'm still very interested in reading this. It sounds really interesting. I probably didn't do a good job at all explaining that, but. And finally, I have Chew, Omnivore Edition Volume 2, by John Layman and Robin Gilroy. So I have the first one. The first one I actually got years and years ago from an ex, and it was actually pretty interesting. And so I finally, but the edition he got me was so, these are fairly spendy. I think they go anywhere between $20 and $50 per edition. So basically these are just hardcover bind-ups of the smaller editions. I've seen, like, I actually just saw them at the comic book store when I bought Low, that they do have these types, but because I already have the first one of the hardcover, I just want to be able to keep in that. But yeah, we are following Tony Chu, who is a detective with a secret, a really weird secret. He's a psychopathic, which means that he gets psychic impressions from whatever he eats. It also means he's a hell of a detective as long as he doesn't mind nibbling on the corpse of a murdered victim to figure out who done it and why. He's been brought on by Special Crimes Division of the FDA, the most powerful law enforcement agency on the planet, to investigate their strangest, sickest, and most bizarre cases. So yeah, it's real weird and real fun. I really do enjoy the art of it. It's a really kind of morbid and gross topic, but it's really, I've enjoyed it, so I'm eager to reread the first volume and then get into this one. Hello, it is sometime later. Obviously, I've taken off my lipstick, and put on a jacket because it is freezing today. But I got a package in the mail, and it feels like a book, and I totally forgot what it was until I felt it, and didn't realize that this one would be coming so soon. So let's open it. So yes, this is another one that I ordered from Pango, and that is Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. And I think I got this for like $10 or something, 14 maybe. But it's a series that has its second book coming out in 2022. I've been interested in this one in particular. The rest of Sarah J. Maas' stuff I have not been interested in. And this one I was cautiously interested in, to the point where I didn't want to spend full price on the book. So yeah, I know it's about fairies of some sorts. I like the end pages. It's real pretty. That's pretty cool too. But it's been a while since I've read the synopsis. Bound by blood, tempted by desire, unleashed by destiny. Bryce Quinlan had the perfect life, working hard all day and partying all night until a demon murdered her closest her closest friends, leaving her bereft, wounded, and alone. When the accused is behind bars but the crime started up again, Bryce finds herself at the heart of the investigation. She'll do whatever it takes to avenge their deaths. Untitled is a notorious fallen angel now enslaved to the archangels he once attempted to overthrow. His brutal skills and incredible strength have been set to one purpose: to assassinate his boss's enemies, no questions asked. But with a demon wreaking havoc in the city, he offers an irresistible deal: help Bryce find the murderer and his freedom will be within reach. So, no, I have not read any of Sarah J. Maas's other stuff before. This would be my first Sarah J. Maas, so I have a feeling it's going to be fantasy. Obviously there's a demon killing people, and archangels, but I have a feeling too it's going to be smutty, maybe. So, yeah. These are the books that I'm hauling. These are my new books that I've hauled for winter and my last book haul for 2021. Yes, we changed angles a little bit because I am not holding these up. So this is kind of a weird angle for me. So hold on a second. There. Yeah, if you've read any of these, let me know your thoughts down in the comments down below. I would love to hear them. Please, no spoilers. I hope to get to these eventually, but hopefully relatively soon. I know that some of them in particular I have picked out for some special TBRs later in 2022. So yeah, I hope that you are doing well and enjoying whatever book that you are reading wherever you are, and I will see you in my next video very soon. Chew.